Bear down, Chicago Bears. Guys, Justin Fields is featured at Chicago Bears on the X app. And what does that mean for Chicago? Is it something that indicates to us that they might plan on sticking with Justin Fields? Is it an indictment of the teams last year and just a way to kind of clear it out? Look, I would posit that any team that's putting its prime player front and center on its Twitter account leading into an offseason and they're under contract means that they're probably leaning on sticking with Justin Fields. Now, that does not mean that they might not make a wild draft pick of a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or the name that suddenly is popping up out of nowhere, bypassing Jaden Daniels, is Bo Nix with no JJ McCarthy kind of in there just in case as a backup, anything like that. A little bit weird, but remember, we're analyzing people like me, talking heads that give you ideas of what people are or are not going to do in this market. We're guessing. We are absolutely guessing. We are always just kind of trying to figure out what it is that's going on, and we're just trying to figure out like the best way to bring you content and engage you and let you know. And speaking of engaging you and letting you know, check this out. This is what the Bears posted on January 27, 2 days ago. And look, this is a highlight reel of last season, but it's titled JF1, and it is all about Justin Fields. And look, we saw a lot of, and by the way, I put out a video last night, and a lot of people enjoyed the video. But a lot of people also said, you know what? No, I don't like that video. And they didn't like the video because I asked the question, like, does this change anything? Because what we just saw, which we did not expect to see, by the way, most of the talking heads again kind of felt like we were going to see Lamar Jackson's coming out party. Lamar Jackson finally doing it, whatever it is, taking his team to the Super Bowl. Becoming that elite quarterback that seems to be eluding him at this point. And what we ended up seeing was a Lamar Jackson who underperformed, underachieved, and we can blame it on the team. We can blame it on any and everybody. By the way, there were errors that were made both in coaching and in players. And look, Zay Flowers dropping the ball, fumbling into the end zone, that made the game, a lot closer. I think it would have made it 17-14. And throwing an interception, Lamar in the end zone, making it 21-17. The Baltimore Ravens shot themselves in the foot, but it's also a testament to that athletic quarterback, which I think Justin Fields kind of resonates with me like a Lamar Jackson type player, not in the passing sense, I want to say, but in his elusiveness and his ability to avoid rushes, and his ability to not be tackled, and his ability to stay alive and keep a play alive. Now, I have to say that that's what I see. Now, if I go back, and full disclosure, I'm from Louisville. I watched every Lamar Jackson game for the Louisville Cardinals. I knew who Lamar Jackson was as a passer, but I also like Ohio State, and I watch all the Ohio State games. I mean, you can't avoid it, right? Justin Fields, to me, was a superior passer in every way to Lamar Jackson. So when I make this comparison, I make that simply on the fact that he can stay alive and keep the play going. At the end of the day, I think that Justin Fields superior passer. Now, what we did see, by the way, is we saw the same kind of performance, except for some reason, Lamar Jackson was an MVP candidate with his sort of lightning performance, but we didn't see the same thing from Justin Fields. We got, you see, even the guy, we got, weird comments. Now, it should be noted that 80% of people in Chicago support Justin Fields and want to see him continue on as the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And we've got some interesting comments from former players as well. Now, if you like this content, by the way, please make sure it helps to support me that you hit the like and subscribe button on the way in. to support the channel, helps me, trends me, quote unquote. And look, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna say wild stuff like having a hype video doesn't mean anything. That supporting Justin Fields isn't really supporting Justin Fields. That they don't like Justin Fields. That they hate the fact that other people do. They can't control themselves. They have issues. That's fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of small-minded people around. So bear that in mind as we kind of break this down for the day. But before, let's get into what is going on in the overall news. Now, of course, it should be noted that the Detroit Lions went down, fell to the San Francisco 49ers 34-24, meaning George Kittle heading to the Super Bowl, big time Chicago Bears fan, big time Justin Fields fan. Matter of fact, I think George Kittle said that Justin Fields is like his favorite quarterback of all time. Like that's his favorite Chicago quarterback of all time. So another in a line of wonderful football players that love Chicago, saying that Justin Fields is their guy. And I think they said anybody who doesn't support Justin Fields is probably not very smart. Weird thing for them to say, but a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are indicating that. So let's look through some of the news today and let's see what we've got going on. So the latest Justin Fields report could force the Chicago Bears' hand. Now, this is because RG3, Robert Griffin III, had a former Bears wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, on the show, and he came up with something that's very, very important, and at least that we as fans might want to consider in this entire discussion. And the question was, do you think Justin Fields should keep the Chicago Bears? And really, it's kind of reverse here. But Marshall posed an intriguing question about Justin Fields, and that was what he asked. He said that Justin Fields' possible desire for a new beginning. It's fair for Justin Fields to doubt if the Chicago Bears can coach and develop him further, given the chances he is faced with his initial 3 seasons in Chicago. RG3 supported Marshall's stance, confirming that there could be individuals within Justin Fields' circle who might desire a fresh start during this offseason. There is a little bit of Justin Fields camp that might not want to be in Chicago. Now, it should be noted, and it should be said specifically, Justin Fields has indicated nothing in the way of wanting to move on. All he's said so far is that he loves Chicago. He loves the city of Chicago, and he wants to stay in the city of Chicago. But if God has a plan for him otherwise, then he's going to follow that. Now, that being said, there are people probably in his orbit who are like, you know what, a fresh start would be good. And because look, that's the way that we do things. Like we're always looking for that fresh opportunity, for that fresh start, for that new beginning, if you will, regardless of what the player might think at that time. And remember, we as fans, we love a player until he doesn't perform, then we hate a player because we don't like him. So if RG3's statement holds any truth, the Bears are left with no option but to trade Fields to the highest bidder in the offseason. Now, that presents itself a problem for the Bears because most of the league has kind of quietly confirmed that what they want for Justin Fields is maybe a second-round pick. Now, that leads to the next question, which is, did the Chicago Bears hire Shane Waldron to fix Justin Fields? In the most recent episode of the BFR podcast by Dave and Ficky, they discussed the latest developments, and you can watch the episode by clicking down below. But they actually think that, this was primarily the reason that the Bears are leaning on possibly keeping Justin Fields, and that maybe this is an opportunity to quote unquote fix what they think Luke Getsy and even Matt Eberflus to an extent have broken at this point. That look, if you go back and you look at the tape, if you look at Justin Fields, if you check this out, then you find that Justin Fields checks all the boxes, has checked all the boxes. He makes all the throws, has made all the throws. The fact that he wasn't doing it in Chicago should be considered, or at least in my opinion, a testament more to the coaching staff and the lack of development from the coaches in creating that next level. Every player has a level. And once you achieve that level, it's really up to the coaches to help that player unlock that new level, if you will. Now, players, generally speaking, are self-motivated, and you don't get to the NFL by just being a good athlete. You have to also be able to improve yourself and get better and better and better, right? You have to recognize your weaknesses. You have to be smart and intelligent in that regard. And you have to be able to find out what it is that you're not doing. And you have to make a decision on whether you're going to get better. I refer back to the old Michael Jordan rule where, Michael Jordan didn't work on dunking. Michael Jordan was a great dunker when he came into the league. He was a good scorer when he came into the league. What he did was he refined what he didn't do correctly. He became an elite free throw shooter. He became an elite jump shot. He became something that he wasn't. He learned to play better defense, even though he was already good at defense. He took his weaknesses and turned them into strengths. And that is what you look for in a player. And the question you have to ask yourself is, will this person do that? Or can this person do that? And yesterday, one of the things that I also indicated in my video, which I suggest that you go watch, because it's just a comparison of Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. And what I said is, maybe Lamar Jackson is everything that we think that he is, but maybe Lamar Jackson is Clyde Drexler, and maybe Patrick Mahomes is just Michael Jordan in the NFL right now. Maybe that torch has been passed from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes, and that's just something that we have to deal with. Now, that would also be something that we're going to have to deal with Justin Fields, or with any quarterback, I want to say. And we've got some analysis on Justin Fields that I'm going to get to very shortly that might intrigue and interest you greatly. So, is Shane Waldron here to fix Justin Fields? That's going to be the question that we're going to be asking for the next couple of months. Now, there's a former NFL scout, Dave Daniels, I want to say his name is, Daniel Kelly, Daniel Kelly, who says that he's spent 4 years as a scout for the Jets. And he says, I'm torn on Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields, who is the equivalent to an NFL scout riding a roller coaster at Six Flags. You are in for a lot of intense highs with the 24-year-old quarterback and a lot of nerve-wracking lows. Nerve-wracking lows that you're going to get with almost any brand new quarterback in their development phase. The argument, of course, for and against would be, well, you've had 3 years. Some of those problems shouldn't still be there. And here's the thing. Some of those problems are not there anymore. But again, you can only do what you're coached to do. That's the way that it works. But the Chicago Bears have seen plenty of negatives from Justin Fields. He spoke to the mistakes that Justin Fields made this season. The interceptions, a stat that is slightly inflated due to the 2 Hail Mary throws in the Cleveland Browns game, one of which wasn't even caught. Remember that they were given credit for an interception that doesn't exist on camera, okay? Fields still gave the ball away too much as he lost 4 fumbles. Now, I would make an argument that is the most telling problem for Justin Fields, is that he just fumbles too much. Like we've got to come up. And by the way, the fumbling too much is because he's trying to be elusive and he's trying to make wild plays to keep this team in a game that's rapidly going out of hand. I want to say that. Now, in the event that you remember, one of those fumbles was a very easy safety for the Detroit Lions. And matter of fact, I think he had 2 fumbles in that game. But, the point to it is that, can we fix fumbling? Yes, 100% we can fix fumbling. Can we fix all of these problems that seem to crop up, but that Justin Fields, quote unquote, has to deal with? Look, I think the answer to this is a resounding yes. Again, I'm not here to tell you that Justin Fields is the guy and that we have to make him the guy. I'm a Chicago Bears fan before I'm a Justin Fields fan. I don't care who the quarterback is. I care that we have the best chance at success. And I am a firm believer that Justin Fields would give this team the best chance for success. And we're going to talk about that because there are some reasons why. But before we do that, we want to go back and we want to address a couple of former players, because we just covered Brandon Marshall, who said, look, maybe it's part of Justin Fields that we have to deal with. But here's the thing. Brian Urlacher, if you watch my video, if you didn't, by the way, you can go check it out. It's on the channel here. Brian Urlacher says that the Bears need to trade Justin Fields and draft Caleb Williams. And his idea, and this right here says, Brian, he thinks that it's a no-brainer. But look, this is kind of wild. This is just wild to me. And I'm not gonna defend Brian Urlacher, by the way, because I don't, like this is, obviously one of my favorite linebackers, one of my favorite defensive players for the Chicago Bears. He played along with Lance Briggs and Nick Roach, and I thought that was a great, great, great linebacking core. They made plays. They were playmakers, each and every one of them to a man. And it was rare. I mean, this was just an incredible team. But he says that the Bears have to draft Caleb Williams, and he says that they have to because they missed on C.J. Stroud last year. Well, of course, Bryce Young, I think, was the consensus star, and he ended up not being the star. C.J. Stroud, in every single measurement and in every single way, was an inferior athlete and the same position on the same team to Justin Fields. That has to be said, and we have to recognize that. Nobody saw what CJ Stroud is doing coming. And could that be, by the way, a product of proper coaching versus what we got from Luke Getsy, what we got from the transitional sort of coaching that we received or that Justin Fields received during that period of time? Now, that's the question that is in my mind when I see this stuff. But he says you can't miss on Caleb Williams. You have to take the guy. If you see that guy out there, then you have to take him. Well, what if you already did, right? And then Brian Urlacher, and I kid you not, because look, again, he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He is Chicago football. He then says, well, I don't watch Chicago games, but, from what I see, I think that they should move on. That is wild to me. Now, look, you don't have to watch Chicago Bears games. You can be a fan. George Kittle's going to watch Chicago Bears games for the rest of his life. He's a Chicago fan. Brian Urlacher, I don't know if he's a Chicago fan. I know he's a Chicago Hall of Famer, but that's a job. So, he doesn't watch Chicago Bears football games. So I don't know that his opinion really matters that much. And, no disrespect, but, that's the case. And look, there were a lot of people that came on to threads that were out here that were saying that the reason that Brian Urlacher is saying that because he's a racist. And look, he's saying that you should draft Caleb Williams, and that you have Caleb Williams instead of Justin Fields. And I got to say, it's very hard to justify that would have anything to do with racism. I don't think that's a valid argument for people. So let's if we could move beyond that, because it was very weird, and it was showing up in my comment section on this Brian Urlacher video, and it made no sense because I mean, unless they would find a new Tom Brady, maybe, then it made no sense because you're moving from one man of color to another man of color. That's not racist. That's not what you don't like. You don't like somebody because you don't think they're doing a job. And look, he's been fed a narrative that he thinks that maybe they're not doing a job. Now, the Panthers took Bryce Young with the number 1 pick, and then the Texans took C.J. Stroud. Stroud, of course, had a phenomenal season and is the runaway favorite to be named the league's Rookie of the Year. How he does next year is going to be super interesting to see. Now, that means that we've got Brian Urlacher saying move on. Lance Briggs, however, has said that Justin Fields is the guy. One of the things that he said just recently, by the way, not that long ago, is as horrible as the offense played today, when we needed them the most, they showed up. In the critical situation, what did we want to see? We wanted to see a quarterback who could come down and help finish a game. Well, Justin Fields did that. Lance Briggs coming to the aid of Justin Fields saying, look, this is our guy. We should stick with him. Alex Brown, by the way, I do want to say that Alex Brown wants Caleb Williams. He's ready to move on. He thinks that it should be something different. So, it's still a lot of argument from former players about what should happen. But Lance Briggs, pro Justin Fields, Alex Brown, Brian Urlacher, anti Justin Briggs. Now let's go check out free agency here real quick. These are a couple of free agent targets for the Bears that are going to be in the championship game here. And these are the guys that we're going to be looking for. Of course, number 1 has got to be Chris Jones, right? So number 1, Chris Jones, defensive tackle. Remember, we're going to be spending 20 plus million on Jalen Johnson. We have $46.7 million market cap space. and 20 million of that is earmarked to go to Jalen Johnson. So now the question becomes, what else or who else are we able to sign? We're going to have to release Eddie Jackson. Obviously, there's going to be some releases that are going to have to come with it. Obviously, Robert Tanyan's going to be gone. We're going to have a few people. Cody White here, I think, is still under contract. Probably have to dump that contract. There are some contracts that are going to have to be dumped. We're going to have to do a good job of picking up in free agency or through the draft some new talent and new depth on this roster, especially if you pick up a monster by the name of Chris Jones. So Chris Jones is certainly on the radar as somebody available. And then you have running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You've got Mike Edwards, safety for the Chiefs. You've got Nick Allegretti, center for the Chiefs. Now, by the way, this is a position of dire need for the Chicago Bears. If you didn't go with a defensive tackle, and in fact, let's just say that you pick Justin Jones back up. Now, I'm not a fan of picking up Justin Jones, by the way, because I feel that Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens and maybe a few draft picks might do a serviceable job. So I'm not a big fan of picking up that defensive tackle position one more time for another. But you know what? Look, I'll grant you that if he's available and the price is right, let's go with it. But Nick Allegretti going to be available. Derek Noddy is going to be available at the tackle position. Probably a cheaper option than Chris Jones, in fact. Then you have Kevin Zeitler at right guard. Right guard would be fixed. And that's a pretty big move right there. Then you have Geno Stone, safety for the Ravens, a good pickup. Again, we need a replacement for Eddie Jackson. Then you have, I don't even know, Justin Matabuki, defensive tackle. Then you have Kyle Van Noy, a little older. He's 33 years old. So I would venture to say that that's probably not what we're going to be looking for. Maybe looking for a little bit more youth to come through for the long term. Then you got Nelson Aguilar, perhaps Chauncey Gardner, Graham Glasgow, a guard. And by the way, from Chicago, Illinois. So it would be interesting to see Graham Glasgow come home and be an effective right guard. Still need an effective right guard. Jonah Jackson also with the Lions. Then you've got Benito Jones at defensive tackle. Josh Reynolds at wide receiver. Chase Young, this is the guy. This is the one that everybody wants to have. This is, if we can pick up that, and that really comes down to Chris Jones. If you can't get that defensive tackle, then you have to make that move. What about Chase Young? Do you have enough money to get one of these guys? Because again, you got to pay Jalen Johnson, even if you give him $20 million a year. I think his rookie contract's $3 million or so. So it's going to be about a $17 million differential, which means you're only going to have about $30 million in cap space before cuts to make these moves. And you might have to make some brutal cuts, by the way. So be prepared just in case for those. Remember, Lucas Patrick's going to be out there. No chance he comes back in. We really have to go back and look at, Lucas Patrick, that was a Luke Getsy guy. Robert Tanyan, that was a Luke Getsy guy. There's some guys out here that are just going to have to go. But Chase Young, one of those guys. Javon Kinlaw is going to be available. Randy Gregory going to be available. A little bit old. Cleveland Farrell is going to be available. Ray McLeod is going to be available. So some good positions that are still available in free agency that are still playing coming up. So let's move on to the draft here. There's another mock draft in NBC Chicago every single day with the next mock draft. And in this mock draft, we now have it, and we're not yet getting the consensus, by the way, but we're getting close to it for NBC Sports Chicago that Caleb Williams is going to be the first guy taken, even though we see different things every single day that tell us that that's probably not going to be the case. We're still seeing it all of the time, and I think that NBC Chicago, despite not knowing, is just really doing it for hype, and they're just doing it to kind of give you this is what it could look like. And again, they're not tipping their hat, because the Bears, I don't think, have tipped their hat one way or another. The hype video of Justin Fields that they put out on Saturday, that's fantastic. That's a great look, and that's kind of gives the fans a feeling like, oh my God, we're sticking with Justin. But look, even though I would like to see that, the product on the field, they have not seen Caleb Williams in their own situation. They haven't seen Caleb Williams go through Chicago Bears drills. They have no idea what they could be getting until they do that. And we've got some analysis on that that's coming up in the show. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. But there's going to be there's going to be some consideration. There will be some strong consideration. The Bears will work out Caleb Williams. They will work out, I think, Drake May at least. Now, I think beyond that, if you're ranking this by a system, right? You work out the best quarterback available. You work out the second best quarterback available. Do you bring in Jaden Daniels, assuming that he's the third best quarterback on this? And by the way, Jaden Daniels, fantastic year. So, but he's basically the same as Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. So, do you do it, or do you bring in JJ McCarthy? Do you have an interview with JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix? Do you start looking down the draft a little bit? Do you kick the tires on multiple quarterbacks, or do you just stick with Caleb Williams? And if he's not the right guy as that quote unquote generational talent, do you just move on? So that's really what we're going to find out. And by the way, we're going to know pretty quickly exactly what the Bears are doing. Now, Dallas Turner is their pick for number 9 as an edge rusher from Alabama. I have continued to say that I think Jared Verse is a better option than Dallas Turner, but Dallas Turner as an edge rusher for Alabama, he is an explosive guy. He is a big time guy. And what they also say is that the Bears are going to send Justin Fields in a 2025 6th-round pick to the Patriots in exchange for the number 34 overall pick and a 2025 5th-round pick. And then you've got Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State, coming in at number 34. Guys, this does not fix your, this is, to me, just to me, this to me feels like a boneheaded draft of somebody just kind of filling in some blanks to see, how bad can I make a draft? And it's no disrespect to NBC Chicago. I've seen several of these mock drafts that they do that I think have been worthy of consideration. I mean, again, Caleb Williams, number 1. I don't have a problem with that. I prefer Justin Fields, but I don't have a problem with Caleb Williams. But where we get this weird sort of thing here is when they just find creative ways to not take a wide receiver. That is wild to me. Mel Kiper even says the Bears are going to trade up to get a wide receiver in order to complete their little to create his little package deal. And NBC Sports Chicago must hate Bears that can catch a ball, because they continue to find new ways to not draft a wide receiver. Now, when we get some clarity about what's going to happen with Justin Fields, when we get some clarity about how they feel about Caleb Williams, all of these are going to change, and we're going to know 100% exactly what it is that we need. And we're going to have some free agency that we'll be able to check out. Free agency, NFL starts. The start of NFL free agency is going to be March 15. So it'll begin on March 13. Teams and free agents can start negotiating on March 11. Contracts can be signed on March 13. So there we go. That's the important thing right now, is that free agency will start in a little less than 2 months. So we'll have 2 weeks now for the Super Bowl, which will not feature the Detroit Lions. NFC North did not get into it, but San Francisco and Kansas City will be playing in the Super Bowl. So we'll have about a month after that, and then free agency will start, and then we'll start to see how this team sort of develops. Top NFL free agents, by the way, Brian Burns looks like, Chris Jones, and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins not coming to Chicago, by the way. No chance of that happening. So anyway, Caleb Williams, Dallas Turner, don't like this at all. But we got another one here. And it says that this is from heavy.com. It says that the Bears trade sends quarterback Fields to the AFC for 2 picks, including a possible first. Now, their idea of a workable trade. Trade proposal centered around Fields continue to circulate. Chris Trapasso of CBS Sport authored a trade pitch on Friday, sending Fields to the Las Vegas Raiders, who continue to say that they really want to see they want to see Justin Fields in a Raiders jersey, along with a 6th-round selection in 2025 in return for a 3rd-round pick this year and a conditional 3rd rounder in 2025 that could end up being a 2nd or even a 1st rounder based on Fields' results in the desert. So, again, a lot of people just kind of trying to play along with the whole narrative. So, um, we'll see what they end up doing. But that's just an idea, by the way. That's just an idea. And it should be noted right here that Justin Fields finished this season in strong fashion, and that we've got to at least consider that maybe Justin Fields is a continued work in progress that's only going to get better with time. So let's move on to this right here. And this is Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams. And it really, should the Bears trade, and this is Cole Jacobson, Matt Cineros, and should the Bears trade Justin Fields and take Caleb Williams with the number 1 pick? And I suggested you go to the Analyst and check this article out. 1 year after the NFL offseason was dominated by discussion about whether Chicago should give Justin Fields another year or use the number 1 pick on Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. We're right back where we started. Now, I do want to stress this. I do want to point this out. Last year, it was considered that the best selection was Bryce Young. It was decided by everybody. Bryce Young was the guy. Okay. CJ Stroud was the second best guy. And it was decided by almost everybody. Now, it worked out entirely different. And what is to say that that's not going to be the same thing this year? What's to say that Caleb Williams is not going to be a bust, and that the Bears are going to waste their pick? Again, we're told it's a generational talent. We're always told it's a generational talent. We're told Bryce Young was a generational talent. We're always told that. And then CJ Stroud becomes the guy. Remember, 2018, Mitch Trubisky was the generational talent, and Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes became those guys. So, you never know who it's going to be. In fact, Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick and still hasn't been to the Super Bowl, or won a Super Bowl. He looked good. He looked good, and to start the game off yesterday was looking fabulous until just kind of falling apart in the second half. But we don't know who's going to be great. We know there's potential all the time, but we have to see it on the field. So now the question is, what do we see on the field? Before even mentioning the name of Williams or any other draft eligible quarterback, the first order of business is to diagnose whether Fields has been improving over the course of his pro career. Looking at team success, the Bears made progress in the 3rd season. 7 wins were the most the team has had in his career. 2023 was the Bears' first time finishing in the top 20 in both scoring and total offense since 2013, back during the days of Jay Cutler, Matt Forte, and Alshon Jeffrey. Well, there are far, and by the way, Matt Forte is for holding on to Justin Fields, just if anybody is curious to that. Evaluating the team is far different than evaluating the player, which is the Bears' impetus here. When looking at Fields' basic passing statistics, 2023 appears to be almost an exact clone of 2022. A little bit better completion, more passing touchdowns in 2022, fewer interceptions, but remember there were 4 fumbles, passing yards per attempt pretty much the same at about 7, and a passer rating a little bit higher, but not a huge jump. Once we look into the advanced stats, though, we can see how Fields' game has really changed. And when we do, one specific trait that jumped out more than conventional stats was his improved accuracy. There are 21 quarterbacks who were qualified in both 2022 and 2023. Fields' well-thrown percentage on true attempts increased from 75% to 81%, the 3rd largest increase among those 21 quarterbacks. He also had the 6th largest increase among the same group in catchable throw percentage, and all of this came despite Fields remaining pretty aggressive in terms of downfield passing, as his 8.6 air yards per attempt ranked 7th among 32 quarterbacks. Why did this improved accuracy not lead to significantly better raw passing numbers? Then becomes the question. Because despite the acquisition of DJ Moore, Fields did not target open receivers more frequently this season. 81.5% open target rate in 2022 was the 3rd highest among qualified passers, trailing only upcoming AFC Championship participants Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. This season, his number dropped to 78.4, representing the 4th largest decrease among the 25 qualifiers in both seasons. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself then is, Justin Fields just not seeing the open man? And that's what you're seeing right here. It's from 81.5 to 78.4. Is he throwing to the guy who's covered, or did he have to throw the ball and they were just not getting open? As it pertains to Fields specifically, though, an increase in contested throws may not actually be a bad thing. How can this be the case? Because the elephant in the room that we intentionally haven't discussed at this point, given that it deserves its own section, and that's the sack conundrum. When questions pop up about Fields' future as an NFL quarterback, they never center around his physical ability to throw or run the football. Instead, there's one core question: can he avoid being sacked at a historically harmful rate? The question has only gotten louder in the face of recent public research that has indicated that sacks are more of a quarterback stat than previously thought. And in 2022, the answer to the question was a firm no. Fields was sacked at a staggering 14.8% of his dropbacks in 2022, or roughly 1 out of every 7. That was the second highest rate in NFL history by a player with at least 300 passes. Let that sink in. Trailing only Don Meredith in the 1964 Cowboys, Hall of Famer Don Meredith, by the way, back when rules were a little bit less friendly to quarterbacks than they are today. Fortunately, 2023 saw Fields make a significant leap in this regard. Some credit can be given to the other changes the Bears made to their offense, such as trading for more, drafting Darnell Wright with a first-round pick, and signing free agent guard Nate Davis from the Tennessee Titans. Nate Davis at right guard, by the way, was not great, was good, not great, though. So we do have to at least consider that. But nonetheless, Fields' sack rate decreased from a career low 10.6% in 2023, perhaps partially due to a willingness to embrace more difficult throws. This fed to the career best 5.5 net yards per pass attempt for the season. The bad news, even Fields' best season to date in terms of sack avoidance would still be a career worst for almost anyone else. So, highest single season sack rates. And if you look right here, these are the single season sack rates since 2010. Justin Fields is number 1, number 2, and number 10 in his 3 seasons. So he's getting sacked a lot. Not only that, let's break it down even further. Deshaun Watson is at 10.9. Now, Deshaun Watson, look, I'm a big fan of Deshaun Watson. Jay Cutler, 10.7. And guys, we remember 6 sacks in the first quarter, by the way, for the New York Giants. If anybody remembers that, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button, if you will, on the way in. Thank you so much. And then we have Tim Tebow coming in here, Zach Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, and Russell Wilson. So, look, I'm going to say this. These are not great stats. However, Deshaun Watson and Russell Fields is some select company, I think, in the NFL. So does it mean anything? Well, I think it means something when you've been here 3 times out of 3 years. It could be a testament to holding on to the ball for too long. It could be trying to make those plays. There's any number of rates, but that's a lot. So furthermore, underlying metrics imply that Fields' improvement in sack avoidance may be limited. In 2022, Fields comfortably had the highest average time to throw on true attempts among qualified quarterbacks at 2.96 seconds. In fact, he has the highest average release time of any NFL with career attempts between 2016 and 2023. And then that number managed to get even larger in 2023, setting at an average NFL high 3.04. Fields' improved ability to avoid taking sacks was the primary catalyst for both he and his team having their best season in years. But his sack rate to get closer to the NFL average, he will almost surely need to find ways to shave his time to throw in a sustainable manner. Now, you're going to have to consider this at least. Is this stat, this 3.04, is he holding on to the ball too long? Is he just unable to find somebody open? Are the Bears just going too far down the field, giving 1, 2, 3 throw? Maybe that's not working because they're trying to get down the field and they're just not making separation. Well, we could look at DJ Moore, who had a career year. We can look at Cole Kmet, who I think had a really decent career. And then there is a dramatic drop off in production. So could I make the argument that perhaps the problem may not have been Justin Fields? And I don't want to be unfair to Darnell Mooney or Tyler Scott or Equinemius St. Brown. I don't want to be unfair to these guys, or even Robert Tonyan. I don't want to be unfair to these guys, but isn't it safe to say that if you can make your throws to your number 1 receiver and to your outlet, which in this case was Cole Kmet, that maybe the problem is you getting open, because your number 2 receiver, Darnell Mooney, finished, I think, with 38 catches. And so did Roshan Johnson, your part-time running back coming out of the backfield. That's another outlet guy. And it should be said, there has to be a reason. There has to be a reason. Now, let's go a step further coming out of college. Comparing Williams' college numbers to Fields' pro numbers would be a farce due to the steep difference. Williams finished outside the top 10 in Heisman Trophy in outside the top 10 in Heisman voting after winning the award in 2022, leading fans to believe his game dropped off. It was not the case. Based on the numbers, any supposed decline from Williams was a harsh fallacy. He finished the 2023 season with a collegiate career high in completion percentage, 68.6, pass yards per attempt, 9.4, and pass efficiency at 170.1. He simultaneously became the only FBS player since at least 2000 to have multiple seasons with 30 or more pass TDs, 10 rush TDs, and 5 or fewer interceptions, something that Fields also did in 2019. Are we catching this yet? Fields did what they're saying. Whoa, it's really cool that Caleb Williams did that. Yeah, so did Justin Fields. College is a different game. We don't know that Caleb Williams can do this. So I still have a concern. Now, this concluded a legendary collegiate career in which Williams, despite only having 3 seasons, joined Marcus Mariota as the only FBS player in the 21st century to finish with 10,000 passing yards, 25 rushing touchdowns, and 160 pass efficiency rating. And when we drive into stats far more complex than yards or touchdown, his 2023 season continued to shine. The reigning Heisman's well-thrown percentage jumped from 77 to 80, while his catchable throw percentage leapt from 76.7 to 80, even when accounting for this fall's disastrous 3-interception game at Notre Dame. His pickable pass percentage dropped from 2.3 to 1.9. So, and then this is the layout for him on his catchable throws. How did all of this stack up for Fields? Though Fields' final college season was limited to 8 games due to the pandemic, he demonstrated elite accuracy. This is the final college season for both of them. Fields, higher completion percentage, touchdown passes, lower, interceptions, a little bit higher by 1. Passer efficiency, higher than Caleb Williams. Guys, and I implore you, as I go through this, to think about what I'm telling you. I'm giving you the comparison of the final season of Caleb Williams and Justin Fields in their college football careers. Well thrown, basically a tie, 80.2 to 80.4. Air yards per attempt, 10.1 for Justin Fields to 9.1. Pickable passes, 3.6 to 1.9. Now, that does stand out. And then yards designed run, 7.4 versus 5.5. So Justin is clearly a superior athlete, if you will, runner. And 7.4 yards per scramble versus 4.3 yards per scramble. So, in every measure here, it's either very, very close or Justin Fields is the superior player in these statistics. But when we look at plays out of structure, Williams tended to stay more aggressive than Fields in their respective final years in college. He averaged 10.46 air yards per attempt with a 13.0 check down rate. Fields had just 7.64 with a 20% check down rate and a 78.2 well-thrown completion, 76.2 for Williams on that. But now let's talk about Caleb Williams' Achilles heel. The data also shows that no one has been more willing to fight to keep a play alive than Williams over the past couple years. His average throw time is 3.04. So everybody telling you that, hey, you got to get Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams' average throw time is 3.04, the same as Justin Fields in the NFL with superior competition. Consider that. It's just consider that. And again, it's not a knock against this is not a knock against Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams is our quarterback going forward, I fully support him. But we should at least consider the numbers, and the numbers should at least make sense. These numbers, that's exactly what we're having a problem with on Justin Fields. The junior was able to reduce that number marginally in his final season, but the mark was 2.93 seconds. So literally no difference. Okay. Jalen Milroe, trailing only Jalen Milroe and Central Michigan's Jace Bauer among 65 quarterbacks with 150 true attempts. Of course, to his credit, this usually did more good than harm for him at the college level. he wouldn't have had a Heisman and be considered a near lock to be picked first overall otherwise. But with defensive linemen that might be tougher to escape and secondaries that may be more accustomed to defending the scramble drill, the pitfalls of this never say die mindset could become more flagrant at the professional level. And since you're obviously wondering Fields' time to throw in his final college season, it was 2.81, far lower than Caleb Williams. It seems like, and look, guys, when we're looking at this, you're listening to me kind of rambling off advanced statistics that are telling you everything you need to know, not about Justin Fields, not about Caleb Williams. It's a fair comparison between the two. But the issue here is the coaching. The coaching. They have coached Justin Fields to be a worse shell of himself. They would do the same thing with Caleb Williams. And when you have two of these elite athletes, and statistically, let me go back to it. If you know statistically that in most categories, Justin Fields is a superior athlete and passer to Caleb Williams, why would you draft Caleb Williams? Justin Fields is still 24 years old. So I just want you guys to consider that. And again, I'm not saying I'm not going to, I would support Caleb Williams the same as I would support anybody who's the quarterback. Look, if Tyson Bagent is our quarterback of the future, let's go, baby. I don't care. What I care about is the product that I see on the field. What I care about is the comparisons that I get from same versus same. What I care about is that we put the best product on the field. And I do believe that he represents, and I mean Justin Fields, he represents the best product on the field. But I digress. So anyway, the rate of Fields' improvement has made him an especially complex decision. If we have absolutely no tangible progress during his career, it'd be a clear choice to explore Fields' trade value and pivot elsewhere. But it's the fact that Fields has made progress in certain areas combined with the financial implication of Fields' rookie contract nearing its expiration that complicates things even further. Ultimately, coming to any firm decision based on numbers alone without thorough film analysis of each player would be foolish, and thorough film analysis doesn't guarantee the right choice gets made. See the Bears 7 years ago. That's Trubisky. But the numbers on their way do suggest that despite Fields' recent improvement, he was still a below-average quarterback under head coach Matt Eberflus and offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, who was replaced by former Seattle Seahawks play caller Shane Waldron, primarily due to a reduction in his rushing prowess. Fields actually had slightly fewer EPA plays in 2023 than in 2022, ranking 23rd among 32 qualified this year. His quarterback EVE, Fields finished 20th among qualifiers in 2023 with 0.2 average yards under expected. As such, metrics alone would suggest Chicago would be wise to make the switch, even though Bears fans seem to be split. While Fields, still only 24, could certainly continue his improvement and become a plus starter, the Bears don't have a particularly long waiting period with his rookie contract set to conclude. And at the sports premium position, there's always been a star nearly guaranteed. Where having a star guarantees the Bears would vault into the NFC playoff and possibly Super Bowl contention. It's a prudent move to gamble on a player with the highest likelihood of being transcended. So there you have it. Based on these statistics and based on the fact that you get valuation by your rookie contract, Justin Fields' rookie contract next year, $6 million, but then he goes into his fifth year, and that's where you have to you could franchise him, but you have a fifth year option that you're going to pick up, and he's going to be $25.3 million, 27 if he makes the Pro Bowl. If he has a great season next year and makes the Pro Bowl, then you have to give him $25 million, whereby after that, you would have to give him at least a reasonable contract for a playoff caliber quarterback, which would mean that he's going to get in the neighborhood of between 35 and $50 million, right? That's what you're going to have to invest into Justin Fields at this point if you were to do that. So if that becomes the case, then Caleb Williams becomes the prohibitive guy that you would want to take, because that's $9 million, $9 million per year for 4 years before you have to consider that fifth year option, which at that point would be maybe 30 million. So that's an incredible deal if you can make that deal. So with that being the case, it looks like the jury is ruling in this situation strongly in Caleb Williams' favor. So now let's get into chat and let's check this thing out and see where we are and see if it broke down and went absolutely bonkers. We got Hey, Bleeves, I have a question. Can I ask if it's sort of off topic, however, heavily related to X? Go ahead and ask your question. I watched a video on YouTube yesterday entitled Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields, year 1 and 3. At least I saw a smaller version of Justin doing nearly. Yeah, you know what? And Victor Wright, I kind of agree with that. I'm not opposed to that. Um, I would say that, really what this breaks down into is you are getting a smaller version. However, it should be considered that there are some statistics in here that significantly favor Caleb Williams. We just went over them, and a lot of them did favor Justin Fields. He was the superior product on the field, except um, there were yards per attempt. Did he check down more often? And look, remember, one of the problems that I think a lot of us had with the West Coast offense back in the day was that the West Coast offense was all about checking down and hitting your running back or a short wide receiver or tight end, and doing a lot of screen passes and stuff like that. And we obviously were doing that. So if you continue to do something like that, then you have a higher completion percentage. And by the way, the NFL, 60 something percent completion in the NFL 30 years ago, you were a superstar. Today, you're not doing very well. You need at least 65 to 70%. You know what I mean? So, yeah. What have Caleb Williams done in the pros? Hold on, I'll wait. Stick with JF1. Well, that's a fair enough assessment, but you can't make an assessment on a guy who's not in the NFL yet. I mean, Justin Fields is 7-26 in the NFL. So, that's not really an argument, or at least it's not a reasonable argument. I agree with you. My sentiment is I want to see Justin. I want to see Justin Fields. That's my guy. But I do have to. You've got to be honest about it. It's typical when facts are brought up, people's default saying excuses. This never fails. Fields was playing with a patchwork offensive line for most of his career. He doesn't even have a center. However, here's the question. We got to go back to this. Number one, yes, maybe that's the case. But number two, does he want to get out? Does he want a new start? Does his team want to get somewhere and just run it back and try it again? But we're not going to know that, by the way. We have no idea how that's going to play out until we find out what the Bears really think um, uh, of Caleb Williams, and they're going to have to work him out before we get that. Patchwork, OC, everything about the Chicago Bears was patchwork at this point, except the running game. Running game, number 3 rushing game, and by the way, number 3 rushing game. I will say this: number 3 rushing game and number 1 rushing defense. So it's all about running the ball, baby. Next up, we've got so basically Justin Fields get $20 to $50 million no matter where he goes. Sounds like a win for Justin. That is absolutely correct. It is a win for Justin Fields. Justin Fields is going to be a player in this league. We've established that much. The question is not whether he will be or he won't be. The question is really what team is it going to be for? Because, we may not love what we see. The Bears might be looking for, it's an opportunity to move on. Matter of fact, by the way, just so you guys are clear, there is a possibility that Justin Fields stays and he gets traded halfway through next season because they want to develop Caleb Williams and they think sitting him behind Justin Fields might be that play. They might dump Tyson Bagent or they might bring in a fourth guy as kind of a mentor for Caleb Williams. It wouldn't make much sense. Now, by the way, because that's payroll, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for that to happen. If you're going to go with Caleb Williams, then you bring in a veteran. Maybe you let Tyson Bagent start, but then you bring in, you bring in a veteran to kind of sit on the bench and walk Caleb Williams through what he needs to know during game plays and stuff like that. So that might be where it goes, or that might be what it looks like. So Alex Brown says, I want that. And I like that. Look, we disagree. I disagree fundamentally with him, but I don't have again, when I say that, it's not because I have a problem with Caleb Williams. I don't care if he's 6'1". I don't think 6'1" is the right height. And I think that would create a struggle. But look, if he can overcome that, I don't care. I care about success. And I don't think that Justin Fields, I think that Justin Fields is ready. He's more ready right now for this new team, for this new offense, for this new everything, then I think Caleb Williams will be coming in. Caleb Williams will have to have a moment where he adapts. Again, I'm going to say this: pressure is on Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, and everybody involved. And by the way, Matt Eberflus may not even have a say in who the player is. So Matt Eberflus might be in a situation where he has to win and win now, and he ends up getting Caleb Williams as a rookie quarterback. and you just got to work shit out and figure it out for yourself. That might be what ends up happening. I don't know yet. We got to see more information. If Caleb doesn't pan out, Bears are going to throw away a lot of potential picks, and JF1, that's a lot of chances for one guy. Well, we're already taking a chance with Justin Fields. So if he doesn't pan out, well, Justin Fields is 7-26. I mean, what's Justin Fields' record as a starter? Justin Fields' record as a starter, I'm sorry, is 10-28. So Justin Fields is 10-28. So, we have to be honest about what product we have on the field. I look at the end of the season, I see 5-3, and I say, you know what? I think we turned the corner. I told you guys at the beginning of the season, I thought we were going to turn a corner. We're going to be a much better team. And we were, but is it enough? Does this take us to the playoffs? In my opinion, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is next year. We're a playoff team. That no question in my mind about that at this point. This is the way Ryan Poles is building the team, the way this team is moving. It's going to be a playoff team. The question really at this point is who's going to be the quarterback at that point. Seems like they failed to include the cost of acquiring free agents and lost potential draft capital in their analysis. They do. And look, a lot of people, sometimes you just have to kind of back up and just kind of wing it and go for it because once you and the other thing to consider is once you dump a position, for example, if you dump Justin Fields, that's $6 million against your salary cap, right? And you add Caleb Williams, that's $9 million against your salary cap. So it's a plus $3 million. So your $46 million cap becomes $43 million. If you add and remember, free agency hasn't started yet. So when you add, you have $46 million in cap space as of today, right now. So, when you drop a couple players, then that comes up to 58, 59, 60 million. Things change dynamically, and you might be forced to fill. But look, it's about, for a good general manager, it's about finding that diamond in the rough over and over and over again. That guy maybe on the downside of his career who has that one last hurrah, or that underrated gem, that Justin Fields guy who didn't get a shot or he didn't get everything go his way at one, and he just needs a fresh start. Those kind of guys are going to be out there, and it's just a matter of finding them, those diamonds in the rough, and maybe that turns the team around completely. Great logic. I want to keep JF1. Great talent, impeccable character. That's, for me, this is very simple. Justin Fields is a man of impeccable character so far. We haven't seen any reason to think that there's anything wrong with Justin Fields. He loves the city. He loves the team. The team loves him. Like, this is a match made in heaven. I just hope that it continues that way. Bear down. You got that right, brother. What if he goes pan out and Fields regresses even more? So yeah, here's what happens if Justin Fields doesn't pan out. There's a new draft next year, and you can still get a quality guy. And there's going to be somebody who's mad from last year who wants out of their contract. There's always a quarterback. I mean, it is. I don't want to say it that way because there's a premium on it, but there's always a quarterback available somewhere. Is it a great quarterback? No, but I digress. But I digress. I think Trent Dilfer, guys. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Okay, so it's possible to get there without having a Brock Purdy is about to play in a Super Bowl. So it's not. It's sometimes you gotta, if you put people in the right situation. And by the way, Tyson Bagent, I think, is only going to improve if he's even given an opportunity. I don't know that he'll ever be given an opportunity because he's coming from Division II, very difficult. But as a serviceable sort of backup with an opportunity to kind of show his way over the next couple of years, I mean, there's a wild possibility that somebody gets injured and Tyson Bagent comes in and looks like a star if he learns anything from what he was doing. I mean, the knock against him was not that he made slow decisions. He made quick reads. The knock against him was that he threw too many interceptions because his arm strength isn't right. Well, Shane Waldron could fix that, not his arm strength. Your arm strength is your arm strength. Maybe you get a little bit better. Maybe you get a little quicker release. Maybe there's a few things that you could do mechanically to increase your velocity, do some leg exercises, work on it, and become a little bit better. Maybe you can do that. But generally speaking, you scheme the right way, then guess what? Tyson Bagent looks like an all-star until the talent around him starts to dissipate. Trade the pick, build around Fields. That's a good. I mean, it's a good opportunity to do that, but it's going to be the decision of these guys. 10 and 30, 10 and 28, but yeah, close enough. I mean, that's the hard part. I mean, the hard part is you still have to account for what he's done. Uh, don't put decision on Fields when it's on polls. That is correct. Patrick Mahomes is not Mahomes. No, it's not. I mean, Bryce had better stats than Justin in his rookie year compared to Justin in third year with a worse team. Enough said. We're moving on. Poles wants his own handpicked quarterback. He doesn't want Pace's trash. Maybe. We have to take a chance on Caleb. We know what Fields is at this point, and it's not getting us to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's true. I think that Justin Fields could take the team to the Super Bowl. It's a question of whether he could win the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter, and he hasn't given people reason to think that he can perform in the fourth quarter statistically at all. 58.4 QBR in the fourth quarter. And I attribute a lot of that to coaching and not being ready for the fourth quarter and not calling good plays. And that's some of that's on Luke Getsy, but Justin's got to step up and he's got to make the plays and he's got to put his team in better situations. And he did not do that. So I would agree that I think he can get you to the Super Bowl. I'm just not sure that he can win one. Maybe. Shouldn't we judge players based on what they do when they are well coached instead of judging them based on? Well, no, because sometimes you should for the most part. However, what if you're poorly coached and poorly schemed and you have poor play calling? And what if that becomes after you've been doing it for 3 years? What if that's your habit now? Now you have to shake your habits, and if your habits are bad habits, then it's better for you to move on and get a fresh start, both you and somebody else, to get into a new system. So what you're saying is, I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't work for the team. That's you only have so long, so it's probably better in that instance to move on, which is why a lot of these people are saying the same thing. Like let's move on to a different person. Make sure you hit the like button, by the way. I appreciate that. That helps me out tremendously. Yep, a lousy, inexperienced OC who never calls plays. Getsy was learning on the job. Well, here's the thing. I agree. I think Getsy was horrible from the third quarter on and even into the second quarter. But he also scripted some of the best plays in the NFL. Justin Fields had a 112 quarterback rating in the first quarter. So clearly those scripted plays were brilliant because Justin Fields looked like the best quarterback in the league in the first quarter. It's after you got past your scripted plays where Getsy had to make adjustments that he was incapable of doing that in a good way. So that's the big problem there. Poles getting more calls for Fields than that number one pick. I don't know about that yet. We'll see. Poles has already stated Justin Fields can lead this team. That is correct. He has stated that. And it also should be noted that Matt Eberflus said that, Justin Fields was part of the equation when Shane Waldron came aboard. It doesn't mean that they're going to keep him, but it means that they like him, that they don't dislike him, and they're not necessarily ready to move on from him yet. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to figure out. And Ghost of Judah Tribe is 100% right. You can't blame the coaches every year. Again, I blame the coaches primarily for the fourth quarter. However, I mean, Justin Fields has still got to perform. Like you still got to make plays. You still got to be that guy. And there were too many times when Justin Fields took it upon himself and, fumbled the ball away or threw an interception untimely. 58.4 QBR in the fourth quarter says a lot. Now, it does also indicate that there was a problem somewhere, and that problem was the defense continued to give up points. Now, the defense has fixed themselves. So the question is, can the Bears continue to fix themselves? But, I mean, look, all we wanted to do at the end of the season, beat the Packers. All we wanted to do, beat the Packers, keep them out of the playoffs. What do we do? No touchdowns, lost 17-9. Some of that's got to be on Justin Fields. I mean, some of that has to be because, we looked at Jordan, we watched Jordan Love, and Jordan Love did a great job. And as soon as the pocket started to collapse, the ball was out of his hands mostly. And Justin Fields, as soon as the pocket collapsed, he was looking to scramble and do something and hold on to the ball for too long. I mean, we have to consider that. It can't just be that it's all coaching. Keep the dog trade the one you don't. Always one more common denominator, and that is Justin Fields. Isn't that what the quarterback coach is for? It is. The quarterback coach has to do a good job. So, and he has not done a good job. So, but that doesn't mean that this is going to be. Here's a great quote here. Would have preferred Harbaugh. Harbaugh would not have preferred Chicago. I mean, I hate to say it, but that seems to be the case. Harbaugh and Fangio would have been awesome. I don't know that Fangio coming back for a third round would have worked. I don't know that it wouldn't, but it seems like when you keep that's a little bit reductive. You keep coming back to the same guy. I'm not sure how well that works out. Kind of like Eric Washington, kind of like what the Bears have done so far. Justin Fields is the worst quarterback in the NFC North. No, Kirk Cousins no longer in the NFC North. I don't think so. But it would be hard for me to say he's any more than third at this point. So, the fact that Justin has some technical flaws and that he's coming out of college to just a lack of dedication to the game. He's barely improved. Yeah, but I mean, I go back to the comparison. I showed you the comparison. He was better than Caleb Williams. So yes, I agree. But he was still he was still a better guy. Chicago Rosen Murray situation. Some of you will realize when you get closer to the draft. Maybe. What would this be? A generational haul? Nothing sports ever seen. If this could be, look. Look, I'm gonna wrap this up, but so I'm gonna say this: if the Bears stick with Justin Fields and they bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. with the number 1, 2, or 3 pick, and they trade that, so that if they make a few trades to get themselves Marvin Harrison, and then they pick up somebody like a Malik Neighbors or a Roma Dunze, and they have fixed their if they fix their wide receiving core forever, then this team will make the playoffs. This team will be the Chicago Bears on steroids. This will be the big team on the block. I mean, this is going to be a fantastic team, even with Justin Fields, no matter what. Especially because they have a new offensive coordinator who I think understands some of these guys and these reclamation projects. And I do want to say this: at this point, Justin Fields would feel to me like a reclamation project of sorts because he's not been coached properly. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that there's not some other. If Caleb Williams comes in and we get one of those guys in the draft, still I think same thing. Like I still think that this is a team that could end up deep in the playoffs. This is a team that could shock a lot of people. And I don't. By the way, I say that nobody's going to be shocked next year if the Chicago Bears are balling out and winning games. The defense continued to improve. Will probably only get better. Pop in a few pieces into the right slots. You get a new center. Then you get. I really think that we need a defensive tackle, but an edge rusher is more important. There are pieces you could just fill. Eddie Jackson at safety, you got to replace him. You really have to replace him. And Kyler Gordon is not it. Kyler Gordon is the nickel guy, so I would not replace him with Kyler Gordon. Even though if you had to, you had to. But again, there's a few pieces that you're going to have to put into place. You put those into place, just a couple, then this is an elite defense finally. And I mean, I hope this is an elite defense, and that will allow you to fix your offense, right? I like Kyler Gordon too. Kyler Gordon is not, but he's not. I don't know that he's an. I don't know that he's an every down guy. Tyreek is too important at cornerback to move. I don't think that. And look, Tyreek Stevenson is a phenomenal athlete so far. Between him and Jalen Johnson, they are shut down. And with Kyler Gordon roaming around, and Jaquan Brisker, I mean, this is really a good team. This is really, really a good secondary. The linebacking core, very good, not elite, but very good. But you add Montez Sweat and you give me a Chase Young on the corner. You give me at least a good edge rusher. And then you have one more problem, and that's the defensive tackles. If you can shore up the defensive tackles with Gervon Dexter, Zach Pickens, I mean, I guess, you're going to end up bringing back Justin Jones if you do that. Okay. I also heard Akeem Hicks is going to be available and that he might be a serviceable sub. I don't know that he's still got the strength in the league to make that big push, but, just kind of just to have somebody there who can swoop up and take all of these tackles that Montez Sweat and another edge rusher are going to create. You need a defensive tackle squad that's going to be able to eat that up. And if you don't, then you move to a 3-4 defense, and you got to have two linebackers that can do that. So, it's, you know what I mean? Like and by the way, Illinois Jones says you can't compare Justin Fields to Caleb Williams in college. Justin Fields was playing with pro talent, and Caleb Williams wasn't. You don't know that. Like see, these are redundant arguments because you don't know what USC is going to have for draft picks. And a matter of fact, USC had all kinds of different great players. And let's see how the draft goes. The draft is what tells you whether or not that happens. So yes, you can make a fair comparison. You can take an elite top 10 college football team, and you can compare the quarterbacks between two elite college football teams, and you get an idea of what their advanced stats are. And you can make a decision based on that. So, there's always something out there. The Lincoln Riley, the Lincoln Riley, I'm not a fan of Lincoln Riley, but look, Baker Mayfield's in the playoffs. Kyler Murray is falling apart, but I think maybe he has an opportunity to kind of come back, if you will, from whatever cliff he fell off of, dressing as Spider-Man and doing all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? All right, so that's it for the show. So you guys have a good day. Appreciate each and every one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to hit the like button on the way out. I appreciate that. And when I end the stream, if you would, leave a comment down below, and that would help the video trend. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 9:30.